How do we change the world? It's a question that feels almost impossibly large, doesn't it? We look around and see problems so vast, so entrenched, that our own lives, our own actions, feel microscopically small in comparison. We want to make a difference. We want to leave a mark, to fix what's broken, to contribute something meaningful. But then the day begins. The alarm goes off, the emails pile up, the responsibilities mount, and that grand ambition to change the world gets buried under the much more immediate need to simply survive the next 24 hours. This chasm between the person we want to be and the person we are day to day can become a source of quiet, persistent anxiety. It's the feeling of being a spectator to your own life, of knowing you're capable of more, but being paralyzed by the sheer scale of the challenge. We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow, that we'll make that big change when the time is right, when we have more energy, more resources, more clarity. But tomorrow never seems to come. What if the answer to that enormous question, how do you change the world, doesn't lie in some grand, sweeping gesture? What if it's hidden in the smallest, most mundane, most overlooked moments of our daily lives? This was a question that one man was forced to confront not in a library or a lecture hall, but in the freezing cold waters of the Pacific Ocean, with the shouts of instructors in his ears and the taste of salt water and failure in his mouth. That man was William H. McRaven, and as a young trainee in the United States Navy SEALs, he began a journey to uncover a set of truths so simple, yet so profound, that they would not only define his own remarkable career, but also offer a powerful answer for anyone who has ever felt overwhelmed by the world and their place in it. To understand the power of the lessons he learned, you first have to understand the world that forged them. Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL Training, or BUD/S, is more than just a military training program. It is a 6-month crucible designed for one purpose: to find the absolute limit of a human being and then push them past it. It is a world stripped of all comfort, all ego, and all illusion. McRaven, like every man who steps onto the beach in Coronado, California, was a before version of himself. He was strong, confident, and a top performer. But BUD/S doesn't care about your past accomplishments. It only cares about what you will do right now, in this moment of extreme suffering. Imagine a world where your day begins before the sun rises, with a plunge into water, so cold it steals your breath and numbs your limbs. A world where the sand is your constant companion. It's in your clothes, your food, your hair, a gritty reminder of your perpetual state of discomfort. This is the world of the sugar cookie, a punishment where trainees are ordered to get soaking wet and then roll around on the beach until every inch of their body is coated in a miserable layer of sand, which they must then wear for the rest of the day. The instructors are relentless. Their voices are a constant barrage of criticism, designed to find your psychological breaking point. They are looking for the flicker of doubt in your eye, the slight hesitation in your response. Every day is a test. Log PT, where you and your team carry a telephone pole-sized log for miles, with grinding into your shoulder. Obstacle courses that shred your hands and test your courage. And the runs, endless runs in the soft, energy-sapping sand, in wet boots that chafe your feet raw. The central, ever-present feature of this landscape is a brass bell. It hangs in the center of the training compound for all to see. If you've had enough, if the cold, the pain, and the exhaustion become too much, all you have to do is walk up to that bell and ring it 3 times. The moment you ring that bell, the shouting stops. The pain ends. You're given a warm blanket and a hot cup of coffee. You get to quit. And most do. For every class of over 150 elite candidates who start BUD/S, 80% will ring that bell. The training is a filtration system designed to weed out not the physically weakest, but those who lack the internal fortitude to continue when every cell in their body is screaming for them to stop. This was a laboratory. It was in this environment of calculated chaos and manufactured misery that McRaven began to notice a pattern. He saw that survival and ultimate success had very little to do with who was the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. It was about something else entirely, something far more fundamental. It began with the very first thing he was ordered to do every single morning. Before the sun was up, before the brutal physical training began, before the instructor started screaming, every trainee was required to make his bed. This was not a casual, pull-up-the-comforter kind of bed making. This was an act of extreme precision. The sheets had to be pulled tight, the corners folded at a perfect 45-degree angle. The blanket had to be just so, without a single wrinkle. The pillow had to be placed precisely at the center of the headboard, a specific distance from the edge. Every morning, an instructor, a combat-hardened SEAL, would enter the barracks to inspect their work. He would scrutinize every bed. And if it wasn't perfect, if there was the slightest flaw, the punishment was immediate. You were ordered to run, fully clothed, into the surf, and then roll on the beach until you became a sugar cookie. To the young McRaven, this seemed utterly ridiculous. Here they were, training to be elite warriors, to fight in the most dangerous environments on the planet, and their day was governed by the trivial act of making a bed. It felt like a pointless exercise in harassment. But as the weeks of grueling training wore on, he began to understand. The bed was the first task of the day. By demanding it be done perfectly, the instructors were forcing each trainee to start their morning with an accomplishment. It was a small win, a tiny victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. In a world where everything else was chaotic, unpredictable, and controlled by the whims of the instructors, the state of his bed was something he and he alone could control. Completing that first task provided a small, almost imperceptible surge of pride. It set the tone for the rest of the day. That one small act of discipline made the next task, and the one after that seemed just a little more manageable. It created a quiet momentum. And more than that, it served as a powerful bookend to the day. On the days that were particularly brutal, days filled with failure and pain, when he felt he had accomplished nothing and had been beaten down at every turn, he would return to the barracks at night, exhausted and demoralized. And there it was, a bed that was perfectly made, a bed that he had made. It was a silent reminder that he had done at least one thing right that day. It was proof that the small things matter. It was a message of hope, a signal that tomorrow offered a new chance to get things right. This was the first great breakthrough. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. This principle connects directly to the universal paralysis we so often feel. We look at our grand goals, starting a business, writing a book, getting in shape, and they seem like insurmountable mountains. The sheer size of the ambition crushes us before we even begin. The lesson from the barracks is to ignore the mountain for a moment and focus on the first step. The power lies not in the grand gesture, but in the chain reaction of small, consistent, and disciplined actions. Your bed might be answering that one difficult email you've been avoiding. It might be putting on your running shoes and walking for just 10 minutes. It might be clearing the clutter off your desk. It is the smallest possible action that represents order and intention in a world that so often feels chaotic. Accomplishing it doesn't solve all your problems, but it changes your relationship to them. You are no longer a passive victim of your circumstances. You are an active agent who has, in a small but meaningful way, imposed your will upon the world. And that feeling, that small surge of pride, is the fuel you need to take the next step. But as McRaven and his dwindling class of trainees soon discovered, personal discipline, while essential, was not enough. You could make your bed perfectly every single morning, building a foundation of personal accomplishment, and still fail spectacularly. Because the most formidable challenges in BUD/S and in life are not designed to be conquered alone. This led to a deeper, more complicated truth. The instructors introduced the trainees to the IBS, the inflatable boat, small. It was a heavy black rubber raft that weighed over 100 pounds and became an instrument of both torture and profound education. A crew of 7 men was assigned to each boat, and that boat became their shared reality. They had to carry it everywhere, over their heads on long runs down the beach, through the obstacle course, to and from the chow hall. The true test, however, came in the water. The instructors would order them to paddle out through the churning, violent surf off the coast of California. These waves were powerful, unpredictable, and utterly indifferent to the exhaustion of the men in the boat. It was here that McRaven learned the second great principle. You cannot go it alone. You must find someone to help you paddle. When the boat hit the surf line, everything depended on perfect, synchronized effort. Every single man had to dig his paddle into the water at the exact same moment, with the exact same power. The coxswain, sitting in the stern, would shout the rhythm, Stroke, stroke, stroke. If even one person was out of sync, if one person let their fatigue overwhelm them for a single moment, the consequences were immediate and severe. The boat would lose momentum, turn sideways, and be instantly broached by the next oncoming wave. It would be flipped, sending all 7 men and their gear into the freezing, disorienting water. This failure was a shared one. It didn't matter who made the mistake. Everyone suffered the consequences together. They would have to wrestle the heavy, waterlogged boat back to the beach, drain it, and begin the punishing ordeal all over again, now colder, more tired, and more demoralized than before. On the other hand, when the crew was in perfect harmony, when every paddle struck the water as one, the feeling was transformative. The boat would surge forward, punching to the powerful waves, moving with a grace and speed that was impossible for any one man to achieve. In those moments, the boat crew wasn't just 7 individuals. They were a single, cohesive unit, their collective strength far greater than the sum of its parts. This experience taught a vital lesson that contradicted the lone wolf mythology so often celebrated in our culture. Making your bed is an act of individual responsibility. Paddling the boat is an act of mutual dependence. McRaven realized that to get through the surf of life, you need a good boat crew. You need people who will paddle just as hard as you do, especially when you are tired. You need to be the person who paddles harder when you see someone else begin to fade. It requires trust, communication, and a shared commitment to a common destination. The world will inevitably send waves to capsize you. A project at work will fail. A personal crisis will strike. An unexpected obstacle will emerge. In those moments, your perfectly made bed will give you the personal resolve to get back up, but it's your boat crew, your family, your friends, your colleagues, who will help you flip the boat back over and start paddling again. It's the realization that true strength isn't just about what you can endure alone. It's about the network of support you build and control. As the grueling months of training progressed, these 2 seemingly separate principles, the solitary discipline of making the bed and the collective effort of paddling the boat, began to intertwine and connect in McRaven's mind. He started to see that BUD/S wasn't just a series of random, disconnected tortures. It was a meticulously designed ecosystem of metaphors, each one teaching a fundamental lesson about life. The grand synthesis, the unifying aha moment, was the realization that changing the world, or even just surviving the day, is a constant dance between individual accountability and communal strength. They are not opposing forces. They are 2 essential parts of a single, powerful whole. The man who makes his bed every morning is cultivating the discipline necessary to be a reliable member of the boat crew. He is proving to himself on a small scale that he can be counted on to do his part. The discipline starts in private, in the quiet of the barracks, but it manifests in public, in the chaos of the surf zone. Conversely, the experience of being a boat crew reinforces the importance of that initial, solitary act. When you know that 6 other people are depending on you not to falter, it gives your personal discipline a profound sense of purpose beyond your own success. You aren't just making your bed for yourself. You are preparing yourself to be strong for others. This insight reframes the entire human endeavor. We are often taught to think in binaries. Are you an individualist or a collectivist? Are you self-reliant or a team player? The profound truth that McRaven uncovered in the crucible of SEAL training is that this is a false choice. You must be both. You must have the internal fortitude to face your own demons and the humility to know that you cannot face the world's demons alone. The ultimate mission, whether it's a covert operation or simply building a life of meaning, requires a person who has mastered their own small world, their bed, their gear, their personal responsibilities, so that they can effectively contribute to the larger group effort. The grand idea is this. Life is a series of surf zones. Some are small and manageable. Others are towering waves that threaten to crush you. The journey begins with the personal discipline to prepare for them, starting with the simplest of tasks. But the journey is only completed with the help of others, paddling in unison beside you, their strength becoming your strength and yours theirs. This is the blueprint for a life of consequence. It's not about one single, heroic act. It's about the relentless accumulation of small, disciplined choices, amplified and made resilient by the power of human connection. And so, We return to that universal question we started with. How do we change the world? We now have the beginnings of an answer, a blueprint forged in the harshest of environments. The journey we've taken through William H. McRaven's story shows us that the path doesn't begin with a grand plan or a revolutionary idea. It starts with a simple, tangible act of order. It starts with making your bed. That first completed task gives you the momentum to face the day. It is a declaration of intent, a quiet promise to yourself that you will not be a passive victim of circumstance. But that is only the first step. Once you have established that small island of control, you must look outside of yourself. You must find your boat crew. You must find the people who will help you paddle through the inevitable waves of hardship and disappointment. And you must be willing to paddle for them in return. This is a formula. Small, disciplined actions, compounded over time, and magnified by the strength of a trusted team. This is how you move from feeling overwhelmed and powerless to becoming an agent of change in your own life, and by extension, in the world. Understanding this is powerful, but true transformation only comes from action. The principles are simple, but they are not easy. They require a daily commitment. The choice is yours, and it begins tomorrow morning. If this journey has resonated with you, if you feel that quiet stirring of resolve to start small and build something meaningful, then you're already on your way. You're not alone. This is a community of people dedicated to that same path. Subscribing is more than just a click. It's a commitment to yourself. It's a way of raising your hand and saying you're ready to be part of a boat crew, a community committed to growth, resilience, and mutual support. Your bed is made. The boat is waiting. It's time to start paddling.